Hey everyone, not sure if anything I've said or done has played any role in what I'm seeing here in this article out of Reuters today, but I can't help to think maybe I have just a little bit. Yeah, I had a short conversation with a gentleman that's a representative of the PBC, and I definitely aired my grievances and voiced my concerns. And I'm happy to see an article such as this coming just days later, because it's going to help me a whole lot in feeling more secure and more willing to support the PBC going forward. That's the thing. I know a lot of people are mad at me because I'm trying to hold Maxime to a high standard in terms of not just the rhetoric he espouses, but what he's going to do as far as standing for genuine individual rights, freedoms, and liberties. And in particular, freedom of speech. Because that's something that should matter to every single one of us. Without freedom of speech, well, pretty much the rest of your freedoms are all built and based upon fiction and the benevolence of your political overlords. Headline out of Reuters, Canada lawmaker says Trudeau's warning against white supremacy is ethnic attack. This being reported by Steve Shearer, April 15th, 2019. Ottawa, Maxime Bernier, the founder of a right-wing party run in Canada's October federal election, said on Monday that Liberal Party Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's warnings about the dangers of white supremacy were an attack on an entire ethnicity. Like to see that. This is finally something, like I say, I'm so glad to see Maxime put this in writing and see Reuters reporting on it. Because this is some area, like I say, that I've been very concerned with the PBC and Maxime Bernier, because I didn't hear a whole lot about him being willing to stand in defense of freedom of speech. But to see this article coming out now, it gives me a little bit more hope. And I may very well yet still come back around to fully supporting and embracing the PBC and the policy. Like I say, folks, don't get mad at me for trying to hold politicians to a high standard, to a high bar. Be patient and trust me. If anyone even listens to anything I got to say or implements some of the policies or positions that I hold dear for myself, and I think it will be a benefit for everyone, like I say, we will all benefit by me trying to hold political actors to a high standard, to a high bar. Hold off your resentment towards me. Hold off your anger towards me just for a little while as I try to raise and elevate what Maxime, what the PBC truly represents. Because like I say, for me to delve into politics, folks, I have to know with absolute certainty that I'm not going to regret doing so. I need to know that Maxime is firm in his convictions to stand for individual rights, freedoms, and liberty, and he's not just out there giving political messaging that appeals to the populist mentality. Because that's easy stuff. Being fully principled and being brave and bold enough to stand in defiance of collectivism, authoritarianism, or the media hacks that are going to try to bring them down. Like I said, I want to see with my own eyes and hear with my own ears that Max is fully willing to stand in full defense of libertarian principles and freedom of speech, even when he's challenged by those in the media. I want to know that he's courageous enough to never back down when they try to use political rhetoric to suggest that he's aligned with white supremacists or white nationalists. Not something white. If you're white and you're a nationalist, that just means you have white, like your skin color is white, and you're a Canadian that's proud of your country. Like, that's the thing. For them to be now getting to the point where they're trying to say that being a white nationalist, and like I say, I'm not a big fan of nationalism per se, but to suggest that these people are now deemed evil or trying to align or associate them with what, Nazis? Yeah, that political messaging, that just don't fly with me. And I'll push back against it every time or every chance I get. And I hope Maxime will do the same. And with the same unbridled passion and fierce courage as I would. Bernier, a former cabinet minister who quit the Conservative Party last year to form his own faction called the People's Party of Canada, has focused on limiting immigration and promoting free trade. His comments on Monday were in reference to last week's move by the Trudeau government to change a report on terrorist threats in Canada that was first published last year to no longer explicitly mention Sikh extremism. We're told the word Sikh was removed because entire religions should never be equated with terrorism. And yet, Trudeau has been warning us for weeks about the dangers of white supremacy, equating an entire ethnicity with terrorism, Bernier wrote on Twitter and Facebook. Hypocrite. It's all about pandering for votes, he wrote. Trudeau's office declined to comment, but Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodale's office condemned the statement. While the vast majority of Canadians celebrate our country's diversity, toxic elements continue to peddle vile, hateful intolerance, Goodale spokesman Scott Barsley said in an email. We condemn Mr. Bernier's attempt to legitimize them. All political leaders have a responsibility to denounce hatred and intolerance, not court them, he added. The Public Safety Minister said the number of police-reported hate crimes in Canada jumped 47% in 2017, the most recent year for which there are official data. While Canadian politics are not as polarized as those in the United States, there are indications, especially online, of increasing intolerance in Canada, which has a tradition of openness and welcoming immigrants from around the world. Trudeau attacked Conservative Party leader Andrew Shearer in Parliament last month for not explicitly condemning white supremacy after the mass shooting at a mosque in Christchurch, New Zealand. Opinion polls show the Liberals have lost ground to Conservatives in recent months, with Shearer's party taking the lead. Shearer defeated Bernier for the Conservative leadership in 2017. The People's Party would win 0.5% of the national vote if it were held now instead of October, an Annals Research poll showed last week. So, yeah, forget about this bottom portion, trying to suggest that once again that Bernier has no support whatsoever. Listen, like I say, I'm just trying to hold Bernier and the PPC to a high standard, to a high bar, and maybe entice him to be a little bit more courageous and more vocal about his support for people that are being thrown under the proverbial bus. Now, I'm not one in particular, right? I could be one of those people that be seeking safety and covering the fact that, hey, no one's come to attack me yet, but I'm not. And the reason why I'm not is because when I see people that are being attacked, such as Faith Goldie, or some of these people that are a representation of the soldiers of Odin, or yellow vesters, or, yeah, there might be some people that you might deem as racist, but hey, even if they are genuine racists, it's not illegal to be racist, right? Now, it's illegal to take your racist mentality and use that to harm people, right? That's illegal. But just because you have thoughts rolling around your head that where you hate people based on their skin color or their sex or whatever, listen, you can hold those thoughts. That's the point of freedom of speech and freedom of expression and freedom of thought. So, yes, it's important to stand for that. Even, like I say, even when it's in defense of people that you don't agree with or people even that you might find vile yourself. Maxime, just like myself. Listen, there's lots of these people, and I get them on my comments all the time. These fucking, I call them knuckle draggers. Like, would you sound just as stupid as your Antifa counterparts when you try to play this collective game where it's like skin color against skin color, and it's sex against sex, and it's religion. Like, you all sound like a bunch of fucking Neanderthals or people that are fighting over, you know, the Leafs versus the Canadians. Like, would you just stop already? Fuck, man. Well, especially if you're a Leafs supporter. Like, you fuckers haven't won anything in, like, basically as long as I've been alive. So would you just stop popping up your collective bullshit and just acknowledge that maybe they're just a bunch of losers, right? I don't know, but that's the problem. Like I say, nothing against all you Leaf fucking people, but I've always found it weird when people are just so blindly willing to follow along with like a particular group or a team and not hold them to any particular stand. Just blind loyalty. I've never been a fan of just blind loyalty, whether it's to a nation, whether it's to a sports team, even whether it's to the pretense or the term called family. Like, there's some people that I respect, people that respect me, right? I treat individuals based on how those individuals treat me. You know, the golden rule, the reciprocal effect. I just don't treat people based on like their skin color or their collective identity or their group or all that bullshit. I like to deal with people as individuals. Which is why anything that tries to paint with a broad brush as far as, you know, calling people just because you're white and you're nationalist and suggesting that somehow correlates you with someone that's a white supremacist or a Nazi, like, that's bullshit. And yes, Maxime should be very vocal and outspoken about the fact that, yeah, we're not going to play that kind of identity politics, right? I mean, he is a libertarian, apparently, right? That's what people say. He's supposed to be very much libertarian in his thought process as far as what it means to be a free human being. So if you're a libertarian, Maxime, you know how important it is to have freedom of speech and freedom of association, and being bold enough to push back against this kind of collectivism or top-down authoritism that tries to suppress or silence voices that have different preferences than those who are your current thought leaders or opinion makers. So, like I say, and I'll always give credit when credit is due, and I'm saying in this video right here now, this did come as a consequence of some of the pushback I've been given. Like I say, I can't even say with any amount of certainty that I might have played any key role or was a factor in Maxime's decision to do this. But, you know, maybe I'll tell myself that just to make myself feel better and give me more of an excuse to get back in the good graces of Maxime and the PBC. Like I say, I just want to do my best, folks. I just want to do my best. I'll make mistakes just like Maxime. I'm a fallible human being like everyone else. But all I really want to do at the end of the day, just at the very least, whoever you are, if you watch this video, just take away, the most important thing that you can take away from this is, I just want to hold us all to a very high bar as far as our morality and our ethical standards, or even our judicial or legal standards, and how we should treat each other, right? Because the only way we're going to be able to respect each other as sovereign human beings and individuals is by having very entrenched ground and base rules, right? Just like if you were going to sit down and play a board game, I've used this excuse or this example in the past. The only way you're going to want to sit down and participate in any kind of collective endeavor, right, where there's multiple people, is if the rules are set and the rules are minimalized so that everyone understands them and nobody gets to escape or get out from underneath those rules. There's no exception to those rules, right? And freedom of speech says that you have to be willing to defend people, even those that you might not disagree with, even those that you might deem as your political or ideological opponents. So I'm very appreciative. Thanks, Maxime, for doing this. And once again, hopefully we can work through what issues we have. Well, I mean, if someone would talk to me other than just someone that, well, at least, like I say, at the very least, I did get some response from someone, and I did say the People's Party of Canada, the headquarters. So somebody within the headquarters at least did reach out to me. So greatly appreciative and respectful of that. But Maxime, man, like somebody, or we need to talk here, because like I say, there's a lot of things that I think I and many others can benefit you going forward, but it's not going to happen if we don't at least try to coordinate in some way our efforts and understand where each other's at. Because if I don't know where you're at as far as your mentality, as far as the things you stand upon, other than just some things I see in your party platform or policy, I've seen that, I've read that, but there's a lot of things that are still obscured and a little bit foggy, and some gray areas where I need some clarity. As a principled person, as a libertarian, I need to know with clarity if I'm going to support a political party. Because, like I say, I'm not a big fan of supporting people that want to take over, assume that role of being the monopoly of force or violence. If I'm going to support someone or a person or a party that wants to take over that proverbial gun in the room, I have to know with at least almost 100% certainty. I know, although I know it'll never be full 100% certainty, but I at least got to know with tremendous certainty that you stand firmly on your principle and you're not just being a political opportunist at this particular time. Because I realize that political opportunism, as far as populism, this is the time right now. If someone wants to take advantage of people's emotions and this political divide, yet someone can step up there and do that today, and do it for some very nefarious and disgusting reasons. Not to suggest, like I say, that Maxime is doing that per se, but I don't know that man very well, right? I don't know him enough to know exactly everything or what reason or the decisions he makes. The only way I can know anything is by, you know, actually a dialogue would be an actual conversation, some dialogue, because I'm a pretty good judge of character. If I'm talking to someone, I can usually tell if you're just trying to bullshit me or not. But I haven't had a conversation. Maybe someday we will. Maybe someday I'll be able to do a video, and I would like to actually reach out to Maxime someday and have an interview, a one-to-one sit-down interview, or, well, I guess even if we're not face-to-face, an interview online, maybe with a live Google Hangout or something, so that maybe I can ask some of those hard questions that I don't think a lot of people have truly asked, and maybe he can answer them and maybe alleviate a lot of my concerns and the questions that I have that still keeps me somewhat reserved from being fully on board with supporting the party. Anyways, I'll post a link to this article description in the video below. But hey, like I say, props where it's due. Thanks, Maxime, for putting this out there and saying that, yeah, you're not going to stand for this kind of nonsense as far as trying to throw people that are white or even call themselves nationalists to suggest that they're all like more or less akin to Nazis and should be treated like second-class citizens. Glad that you're willing to stand in defense of these people, at least to some degree, and I'm right there with you. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.